My dear one, I have watched you move through your days as if you were holding the world together with the tension in your lungs. Not gripping life with your fingers, but clenching it in every shallow inhale, as though if you dared to soften, if you exhaled fully, everything you've managed to keep standing would finally collapse. You've whispered to yourself that if this one thing changes, everything will change, and in your mind that has sounded like a warning, like the edge of disaster. But listen quietly, that shift you fear so much may be the very kindness your soul has begged for without finding language for it. There are moments when what you label as fear is actually your deepest self recognizing that the old rhythm, the familiar pattern, is no longer something you can live inside without breaking. What you experience as danger can sometimes be the first crack of light in a long locked door, the early tremor of a rescue you never imagined could be for you. Lately you've been standing in a season that feels like unfamiliar ground, where the strategies that used to keep you functioning now fall flat, where the costumes you once wore for safety feel too heavy, too tight. You cannot return to the old ways of numbing, of pretending you're fine, of holding your breath through every storm. This has left you exhausted, not just in your body, but in a place so deep that even sleep can't fully reach it. It's the kind of exhaustion that makes choosing breakfast feel like a major decision, the kind that makes an ordinary afternoon feel like a mountain, the kind that leaves you staring at your own reflection asking, why can't I just handle life like everyone else seems to? Why does everything feel like too much? Come here, tender heart. I want to speak to the part of you that has tried to be unshakable while quietly fraying at the edges. Let me pose a question with no demand attached, no timer ticking down, no accusation in its shadow. What if the discomfort pressing on you right now is not evidence that you're failing, but confirmation that you are outgrowing something that once fit you? What if this restless ache is not a sentence, but an invitation? An invitation to step nearer to what is real, to live with more honesty, to breathe from a place deeper than fear, to stop existing only on the perimeter of your own life. I see how your mind has been working overtime, running endless simulations of conversations that might never happen, editing and re-editing memories as though the right version could finally make the past safe. You try to anticipate the shape of disappointment before it arrives, to sidestep loss before it has a chance to touch you, to calibrate yourself so you are never too intense, never too quiet, never too anything. It all makes such painful sense. You have known hurt. You have learned to scan every room like it's a weather report, to pick up on the slightest shift in someone's tone, to brace for a storm before a cloud even forms. You trained yourself to be ready for impact, not because you were weak, but because somewhere along the way, that vigilance helped you survive. But survival mode, while sacred in its time, is not meant to be your permanent address. You are not required to live each day as if the universe were grading you, as if your worth hinged on flawless performance, as if love were a prize you have to earn by being endlessly agreeable and relentlessly strong. You don't have to delay peace until the day everything is fixed, everything is tidy, everything is under your control. To those who walked with you in your own dark nights and stood beside this work through setbacks and losses, those who remained when resources were cut and familiar supports fell away, know this: your choice to stay, to give, to believe, did more than meet needs. It poured courage back into tired hands and reminded weary hearts that what they were doing still mattered. Every quiet act of generosity has been seen. Every small yes in the middle of uncertainty carries weight beyond what you can measure. May the one who never overlooks a single kindness strengthen your household, steady your steps, and visit your days with an unseen but steady goodness. And to you, beloved, I know that what stands before you feels larger than your confidence. Of course you are frightened, you have been craving assurances, detailed directions, some irrefutable proof that if you take this step, you won't regret it, that the floor will not vanish beneath you, that your heart will not be shattered again and scattered beyond repair, that you will not lose yourself in the process like you once did. The truth is, you may never have a map that answers every what if. But there is something surer than a map: you are not traveling alone. Not as an abstract idea you repeat in crisis, not as a distant concept tucked into a book, but as a living nearness that sits beside you on the nights you can't stop thinking, as a steady presence that holds you when your thoughts cannot find a way forward. A map can outline a route, but it cannot hold your shaking hands at 3 a.m. A plan can show you steps, but it cannot lay warmth over your chest when grief swells without warning. A spreadsheet of contingencies can't breathe with you when panic rises. But presence, real, gentle, unwavering presence, can become a shelter when your understanding falls apart. You've been telling yourself you'll move once you no longer feel afraid, as if courage were the absence of trembling. Yet sometimes that tightness in your chest is simply the sign that something is precious to you, that a threshold is near. Sometimes fear is not a locked gate, it's the quiver of a heart that dares to imagine something more than mere survival. And you have been courageous in ways you hardly recognize. You carried unanswerable questions like heavy stones and still kept walking. You got out of bed when your insides wanted to remain under covers forever. You tried again after disappointment left a bitter taste that whispered, "Why bother?" I have seen each of these hidden victories, the nights your mind replayed every misstep, the mornings you chose to rise anyway, the countless times you told yourself, "Just one more day," the smiles you offered while something in you ached, the moments you considered giving up but reached for one more fragment of hope instead. There is a particular idea that keeps circling back to you, a possibility that will not stay buried. You've tried to dismiss it because it looks too uncertain, too disruptive, too unlike anything you've known. You murmur, "If I walk through that, nothing will look the same." You're right. That doorway is a pivot point, and that is why you hover on the threshold, hand poised, pulse racing, waiting for some external stamp of approval, a guarantee so loud that even the most anxious part of you would finally relax and say, "All right, go." Here is what I want you to hear: it is allowed. It is allowed to change your life, allowed to choose differently, allowed to move toward what is true, even if every step feels wobbly. Not because change will be painless, not because you'll never doubt, but because you will be accompanied in every tremor and every tear. You keep measuring yourself against imaginary timelines, accusing yourself of being late, behind, deficient because your path is not neat or linear. You wonder why you haven't figured it out yet, as if a human heart were an equation to be solved quickly. You are not a device designed to produce flawless answers on demand. You are a living story, a breathing soul who has borne more than was ever reasonable, often without a witness. When you feel tender, slow, uncertain, that is not the mark of incompetence, it is evidence that you are alive to your own experience. Your humanity is not an obstacle to love, it is the very place love longs to reside. Underneath your question, "What if I make the wrong choice?" lurks a heavier fear: what if I destroy everything beyond repair? Hear me, you are far more resilient than the harsh inner voice that scolds you. You are not one decision away from losing all value. You are not one imperfect step from being abandoned by love. You are not secretly a problem waiting to be proven. You belong, and you are held by something that does not drop what it has chosen to carry. Guidance, when it comes, rarely looks like a thunderclap or a flashing sign that removes every doubt. More often it arrives as a quiet weight in your chest that feels like alignment, a subtle ease beneath all the noise where something finally stops arguing. At times you'll recognize it because your shoulders drop without thinking, or because, for a breath or two, the hamster wheel in your mind pauses and a bit of open sky appears. That small unhurried space within you is not an accident, it is the gentle clearing where peace begins to take root. Lately you've tried to drag an entire future behind you, insisting on solving problems that belong to months or years from now. No wonder your legs feel weak. You were never designed to carry every possible version of tomorrow at once. You are only asked to inhabit this present moment and to take the next step that is honest, not the next 10. You don't have to know the whole path. Just enough light for the ground beneath 1 foot is sufficient, and in that single step, you will not be left alone. The changes approaching you are not only external, new roles, new places, new relationships, they are also internal shifts. Parts of you have begun to refuse old agreements, the agreement to shrink your voice so others feel tall, to rearrange yourself endlessly so no one is uncomfortable, to remain quiet while your heart is shouting for something real, to accept the smallest crumbs of care and name it, love, because at least it was something. There is a growing part of you that longs for a life that is clean in its honesty, not immaculate, just true. It wants to stop nodding at what wounds you, stop normalizing what depletes you, stop saying, "I'm fine," when tears press against your eyes, stop pledging loyalty to what keeps you broken simply because it's familiar. That uprising inside you is not rebellion against goodness, it is the first sign of healing. You worry about how others will react if you let this healing change you. You've long been the stable one, the one who makes things easier, who smooths conflicts, who bends so others don't have to shift at all. You fear that if you choose a different way, if you express your needs, if you set limits, if you follow a path others don't understand, people might disapprove, label you difficult, or grieve the version of you that demanded nothing. Some may indeed prefer the you who disappeared for their comfort. But your existence is not a stage show designed to keep every audience satisfied. Your days are meant to be a place where you can live without constantly abandoning yourself. There is a vast difference between genuine peace and the numbness you've adopted as armor. Numbness has helped you avoid certain kinds of pain, but in doing so, it has also dimmed your joy, blurred your capacity to feel love, and narrowed your world to something smaller than what you were made for. You were not created to live behind glass. The threshold before you is not merely about a decision or a job or a relationship, it's about who you are willing to be toward your own heart. Sometimes the most profound turning point is invisible from the outside, the quiet choice to stop treating yourself as an enemy, to stop dismissing your needs as burdens, to stop criticizing your own tenderness as if it were a defect. Your sensitivity, your capacity to feel deeply, is not an error in your design. It is one of the clearest signs that you are vibrantly alive, that your heart has not turned to stone despite everything it has seen. I want to guide you in a way that does not add weight to your already tired shoulders. So let us reduce this to something simple enough to hold. You do not have to see the ending to take the beginning. All you must know is what is honest in you right now. And right now, truth sounds like this: you have been trying to carry too much on your own back. You have been working endlessly to earn a sense of safety that should never have been conditional. You have been afraid that if you ask for more, you will be loved less. You have bitten your tongue out of terror that if you reveal what you really feel, people will walk away. Yet love that is worthy of your heart does not shrink when you're exhausted, does not vanish when you say, "I'm not okay," does not withdraw because you need rest, comfort, or boundaries. You will not become less deserving of love because you are honest about your limits. Draw near, not as someone who must prove anything, but as someone who is finally allowed to be held. Let love return to something uncomplicated, not a marathon of striving, not a transaction you have to win, not a maze you must solve while bleeding. Let it be the steady warmth that meets you where you are. If you need a gentle way to listen to yourself, you can turn a soft light inward with a few quiet questions, without interrogating your soul. Does this way of walking through life make me feel more alive or more hollow? Does this choice honor the person I am slowly becoming, or only protect the patterns of fear I've worn for years? Beneath all the noise, is there a small, steady yes inside, even if my hands are shaking? It is allowed for your answer to emerge slowly, to arrive in pieces, to require time. Slowness is not failure, it is often the mark of something real taking root. And to the part of you that flinches when you think of your past, that catalogs every misstep and calls yourself disqualified from new beginnings, your story is not over because of chapters you wish you could rewrite. The very fact that you are still here, still questioning, still longing for something truer, is proof that grace is already at work in you, drawing you not toward punishment, but toward a life where you no longer have to apologize for existing exactly as you are, in all your fragile, fierce, unfinished humanity. Beloved, begin again. You look back and see all the moments you settled for less than what your soul whispered for, the seasons you stayed where your heart had already outgrown, the conversations you swallowed, the red flags you noticed but felt too worn down to honor. You remember thinking, that was my moment and I let it pass. Listen to me carefully, you are not disqualified for having been in process. You are not doomed because fear once sat in the driver's seat. You are not eternally trapped because you once couldn't find the door. From right here, from this very ground under your feet, I know the way forward. This place is not a cul-de-sac, it is a threshold. And the shift that is coming toward you is not designed to crush, shame, or expose you. It is designed to undo the tight knots around your spirit, to unbind you, to return you to the softness you thought you had to sacrifice. Not as a violent earthquake tearing your life apart, but as a gradual unfurling, like fingers loosening their grip, like a window that has been stuck for years finally sliding open, like a slow remembering of who you were before you believed you had to be hard to survive. You may feel fear even after hearing this, and nothing has gone wrong if you do. Courage does not arrive as silence in your nervous system. Courage is the quiet, daily decision to let your heart remain unarmored while your mind shouts all the reasons to run. Courage is choosing to say the next true sentence, even if your throat trembles. Courage is lying down to rest when the old script tells you to punish yourself for not producing more. I will meet you in these choices. I will not mock your shaking hands. I will not rush your unfolding. I am not asking you for flawless execution, only for sincerity. One honest movement at a time. Even if the only honest thing today is admitting what you truly want. Even if all you can say is, something has to change, I can't keep doing this to myself. Even if the bravest act you manage tonight is to stop forcing your mind to solve the entire puzzle before you sleep. That quiet permission is a sacred strength. My child, I stand beside you at this crossing. I am steady when you are steady and I am steady when you are trembling. I am near when clarity feels bright and when confusion fogs everything. I am with you in eloquent prayers and in the wordless exhale that escapes when you're too tired to form a sentence. You do not need to be remarkable to be cherished. You do not need unwavering certainty to be safely held. You do not need to have arrived to belong to me completely. Now, inhale slowly, not to put on a show of serenity, not to bully your nervous system into calm, but just to receive what is already here. Let your shoulders soften as you breathe in. Breathe out and let yourself inhabit this very moment with me. I am not going anywhere. Not when circumstances rearrange. Not when you outgrow familiar roles. Not when you step into something unknown. Stay near. Breathe once more. Dear one, I have watched how tightly you've been clutching your existence, not with your fingers, but with your lungs. Every inhale has felt like a quiet effort to hold the whole structure of your life together, as if the tiniest release of control would make everything you've built crumble. You've told yourself, if this moves, everything moves. And you're right, shifts ripple outward. But hear this, that ripple is not always a catastrophe. It might be an answered prayer you never felt safe enough to name. Often the fear you label as danger is actually your inner being recognizing that the old rhythm is unsustainable. Sometimes what feels like threat is actually the first crack in the cage. You've been standing in a landscape that feels strange under your feet. What used to soothe you no longer does. Old strategies don't carry you like they did. You can't slide back into outdated patterns of numbing, pretending, overperforming. And the cost of that friction is exhaustion. Not just fatigue that a good night's sleep fixes, but heaviness in your bones. The kind of weariness that turns choosing dinner into an overwhelming task. The kind that makes a normal day feel like a mountain. The kind that has you staring at your own reflection asking, why does ordinary life feel like so much for me? What is wrong with me? Come closer, love. Let me speak to the part of you that has been the strong one in public while unraveling in quiet corners. Let me gently ask you, what if this uneasy, restless ache is not proof you're failing, but evidence that your current container is too small? What if the agitation is not a punishment, but a secret invitation? An invitation to edge nearer to what is real. To inhabit your life more fully. To breathe past your collarbones and down into the truth of your body. To stop living at the outskirts of your own soul. I see how your mind races ahead, scripting future dialogues, revising past scenes as if you could retroactively make them safe if you finally land on the perfect version. You try to calculate all potential disappointments, all potential losses, how to avoid being too much or never enough. Of course you do. You have been wounded. You learn to scan every environment for subtle shifts. You learn to read faces and tones for danger. You became an expert at preempting storms before they broke over you. That wasn't failure. That was what kept you intact. But survival mode is not meant to be your permanent address. You do not have to treat each day like an exam you might flunk. You don't have to perform worthiness like a job. You don't have to wait to feel peaceful until every unknown is resolved. The thing looming before you is larger than your logic, and that is why you're terrified. You want contracts and guarantees, a fully illustrated map, evidence that stepping forward won't end in regret. You want to know the ground won't disappear, that your heart will not be shattered beyond repair, that this time you will not vanish inside someone else or some situation. I cannot hand you a map that eliminates all risk, but I can give you myself. Not as a distant theory or a word you repeat to yourself on bad days, but as a palpable nearness, a steady presence breathing next to you when the lights are out and your thoughts spiral. A blueprint cannot hold you when grief suddenly floods the room. A 5-year plan cannot wipe your tears when the memories sting. But my nearness can meet you in the raw spaces your intellect cannot fix. You've been waiting for fear to evaporate before you take a step, believing that only then will it be safe to move. Yet sometimes fear is not a command to stop, it is a spotlight showing you what matters. It is the tremor of a heart that refuses to go numb at the edge of a different life. You have been far braver than you give yourself credit for. You have walked forward with questions aching inside you, with no neat answers in sight. You have kept showing up with a heart that still felt tender and blue. You have risked trying again when disappointment tasted like, maybe never, on your tongue. None of it has gone unseen. I've watched every late night spiral, every early morning you rose anyway, every time you whispered, just one more day. Every time you laughed or smiled so others wouldn't see how much it hurt. Every moment you wanted to surrender but still reached blindly for some sliver of hope. There is a possibility that keeps circling back to you, an image, a decision, a door you can't unknow once you've seen it. You've tried to shove it away because it feels too colossal, too uncertain, too unlike what you've known. You mutter, if I go through with this, nothing will look the same. You're right. And that's why you've been frozen at the threshold, hand hovering, pulse thundering, hoping someone else will announce that it's time. You've been waiting for an unmistakable sign, a guarantee strong enough to silence your anxiety. Hear me, it is allowed. Not because transformation is painless, but because I refuse to abandon you in the middle of it. You are not lagging behind some invisible timeline. You are not late to your life. You are not failing simply because the pieces haven't clicked into place yet. Some processes, if hurried, only fracture. And you, beloved, are not a device built to spit out instant conclusions. You are a living soul, a heart with a history, a person who has carried burdens that should have been shared long ago. When you feel slow, delicate, unsure, that is not proof of incompetence. That is evidence of your humanity. And I delight in you as you are, human, limited, still learning. Underneath, what if I choose wrong, is the quieter terror, what if I destroy everything? Let me answer that. You are sturdier than your anxiety insists. You are not one decision away from erasing your worth. You are not a single choice away from being unlovable. You are not a catastrophe waiting to happen. You belong to me, and I do not carelessly drop what I hold. About guidance, it is rarely theatrical. It does not always arrive as thunder or flashing signs. Often it shows up as a subtle anchoring beneath the chaos, a soft inner knowing that doesn't need to argue. You'll recognize it when your body sighs without you trying. When, for a brief second, the mental storm pauses and there is a small clearing. That clearing is not emptiness, it is holy space. It is me, making room in you for rest. You have been trying to drag the entire future into today, demanding from your heart and mind the strength for scenarios that haven't arrived yet. Of course you collapse under the weight. You weren't built to haul years of possibility like stone. You are entrusted only with this moment, with the next honest movement, not with the 10th step down the road. I will be there when you get to step 10. You only need enough grace for this one. And that, I will always supply. The change you sense is not only in your circumstances, it is happening inside your inner landscape. There is a part of you that is exhausted from dimming. Exhausted from translating yourself so much you can barely hear your own essence. Exhausted from holding your tongue to keep the peace while your inner voice grows hoarse from shouting, "This hurts." Exhausted from folding yourself smaller so that no one feels threatened. Exhausted from being agreeable so you won't be abandoned. Exhausted from collecting crumbs and naming it love because you've been taught to be grateful for anything at all. There is a part of you rising that wants a clean life, not flawless, but honest. One where you no longer smile through what breaks you, where you stop labeling draining situations as just how it is. One where you quit saying, "It's fine," while your eyes burn with unshed tears. One where you stop clinging to familiar pain and calling it loyalty. That emergence is not rebellion against who you're supposed to be. It is the mending of who you truly are. I know you are afraid of how your changes might ripple through your relationships. You have been the stabilizer, the reasonable one, the person who doesn't rock the boat. You are the adapter, the peacekeeper. You imagine that if you step into your fullness, people will notice. Some might question you. Some might misread you. Some might prefer the version of you that asked for very little, that never said no, that lived small so others could feel big. But your existence is not a stage built to keep everyone else comfortable. Your existence is meant to be a dwelling where you yourself can breathe and belong without abandoning the core of who you are. There is a vast difference between real peace and going numb. You have survived by turning the volume down on your own feelings because the risk of being let down felt unbearable. But numbness is expensive. It doesn't just deaden sorrow, it also dampens delight. It muffles love's warmth. It dims the glow of possibility. It shrinks the borders of your world until you forget there was ever more. I did not shape you for a life that small. This door in front of you is not only about a job, a move, a relationship, a decision out there. It is about an inner vow, the resolve to stop stepping over your own heart. To stop talking to yourself like a mistake. To stop treating your needs as embarrassing inconveniences. To stop calling your deep sensitivity a defect when it is actually a luminous, God-given way of feeling the world. You are allowed to walk through that door. And when you do, with all your uncertainty, all your shaking, I will be with you, not at the end, but in every trembling, honest step. My dear one, I see the softness in you, and it is not a flaw to be hidden but a living proof that your heart is still awake. Your gentleness is not your weakness, it is one of the bravest things about you, because it stays open in a world that often asks you to shut down. I know you are tired of being flooded with advice and noise, so let us keep this simple and honest. You do not need to have the whole story mapped out to take your next step. You are not required to know the ending before you begin again. What matters is what is real in this exact moment. And this is what is real: you have been holding too much on your own shoulders for too long. You have been exhausting yourself trying to earn the right to feel safe. You have been quietly convinced that if you needed too much, you would be too much. You have worried that if you showed the truth of your heart, if you spoke your needs out loud, if you let your weariness be seen, love would pull away from you. But hear this clearly: your honesty will not reduce the love you deserve. Your fatigue does not make you less worthy. Your need for comfort does not make you a burden. Your boundaries are not evidence that you are unloving, they are proof that you are learning to honor yourself. Your feelings, even the messy ones, do not disqualify you from being cherished. Come nearer in your spirit, little one. Remember when love felt simple, when it was not a contest, not a test you had to pass, not an endless race where you had to spill your own blood just to keep up. Love was never meant to be something you beg for while you are breaking inside. There are gentler ways to move forward, small questions you can whisper to yourself without judgment, not to interrogate your soul but to gently light the corners of it. Ask yourself, does this road I am on deepen me or hollow me out? Does this decision reflect who I am growing into, or does it only reinforce the fear I have come to know so well? Underneath the noise, do I sense a quiet, almost trembling yes, even if my body still shakes, even if uncertainty hums in my chest? It is allowed for your answers to arrive slowly, in fragments, in half-sentences and pauses. Taking your time does not mean you are failing, it only means you are human. Now I want to address the part of you that looks backward and feels heavy with regret, the part that replays certain scenes and thinks, if only I had done it differently. You see chapters where you settled for less than you needed, seasons where you stayed when you were already gone inside, conversations where you swallowed your truth, crossroads where you knew what was better but did not yet feel strong enough to choose it. You wonder if you missed the only doorway, if the chance you needed is already behind you. Listen carefully, you are not barred from new beginnings because your previous choices were made in fear or confusion. Learning does not make you unworthy. Being scared does not doom you. Getting stuck once does not mean you are destined to stay stuck forever. From this exact place, this messy, imperfect, in-between place, I can guide you forward. Where you stand right now is not a wall, it is a threshold. And the shift that is approaching is not designed to crush you or rip everything away. It is more like a gradual unfurling, a gentle unbinding, a soft return to who you actually are. It is a quiet homecoming to trust, to the deep truth that you were never meant to move through your life armored against tenderness. Even after hearing these words, fear may still visit you. That is not proof that you have failed. Courage does not mean fear has disappeared. Courage is what you practice in its presence. It is the decision to keep your heart available, even while your mind is loud with doubt and worst-case stories. It is choosing the next honest action while your voice trembles. It is allowing yourself to stop, to rest, precisely on the day you feel tempted to punish yourself for not doing more, not being more. I will stand with you in that rest. I will not mock you for trembling. I will not push you to move faster than your soul can bear. I am not asking you for flawless steps, just sincere ones. They can be so small that no one else even notices. They can look like finally naming what you long for. They can look like whispering, I cannot keep walking this same painful circle, and letting that truth land. They can look like choosing to lie down tonight instead of forcing your mind to solve every problem before you sleep. That quiet refusal to abandon yourself is a sacred, resilient strength. I am beside you as you hover at the edge of change. I am with you when your feet feel steady and when your whole body trembles. I am with you in your clarity and in your fog. I am with you when your mouth is full of words and when all that escapes is a single deep exhale. Your value is not a performance. You do not have to impress anyone to be held in love. You do not need to be perfectly sure to be supported. You do not have to be finished, polished, or healed to belong. For a moment, let us breathe together, not as a trick to force serenity, not as a performance of peace, but as a simple act of receiving what is already here. Draw in a breath and allow your shoulders to release, even just a little. Let the air leave your body and permit yourself, for this one moment, to fully arrive where you are, with everything you feel, without pretending. I am not going anywhere. Not when chapters close. Not when you change shape. Not when you step forward through this unseen doorway. Stay near. Inhale again, slowly. Exhale, and know that even in your uncertainty, you are not alone.